Everybody, welcome in to the Thursday edition of the Proline TV Baseball Betting Bash, joined by Jim Feist and Andy Isco. I'm Tony Mejia. Jim, you can catch everywhere, including jimfeist.com. Andy is the owner and operator of thelogicalapproach.com. And you can check me out on Twitter at Mejia Dinero, where you can see all of my work at various sites. And we are going to be talking baseball, which has been fun this week. A lot of other things going on, but if you've been betting or catching up on MLB, it has been an entertaining week. Dodgers beat up on the Rockies. We'll start there. But Jim, did you participate in yesterday's bad beat where the Dodgers got off to a huge start and then ended up not cashing a run line bet?
Yes, well, I think I gave out on the show Dodgers minus 1.5 every game. So, yeah, that cost me.
Yeah, that cost a lot of people. I looked at it too because it was the standalone game of the night, and I just left it alone and stuck with NBA. But it was a tough beat since Satella got knocked around. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani led the game off with a home run, and which I don't think we'll say this often, but the bullpen couldn't hold it, and Bobby Miller made his first start in that rotating fifth spot.
Yeah, which is why I stayed away from the game. Because didn't know what Miller was going to have. You know, the fact that it's the only game being played late, I don't care. If I don't like the game, I don't play the game. You know, I'm not. I'm a degenerate, but not to that depth.
Very nice. Other people making their debuts yesterday were Spencer Strider with the Braves, who looked very good, even though the Braves got beat, and Clark Schmidt with the Yankees, giving them a boost. Lord knows they need it with their rotation issues.
I think Mets also had a first-time starter yesterday.
Who started for the Mets? I missed it.
Was that Broza? What's his name?
Oh, Brosabon. Did this start?
Yeah.
I thought that was a bullpen game. It wasn't?
I didn't check all the box score, but even so, it's still, I'm not crazy about these bullpen games. I understand it, but on the other hand, I've never really understood. I think Tony La Russa did this back in the early 1990s, where he would have a pitcher go 3 innings, then he'd have another pitcher go 3 innings and another pitcher going 3 innings. And if I seem to recall, a lot of books did not put lines up on the Oakland games because that was such a new concept that they didn't know what to do with the limited starting pitchers. And, of course, Joe Madden with Tampa Bay really started it down there with the opener, and then more and more teams have taken that in there. I've always thought that that's not a bad idea because you don't want to have starting pitcher to go more than 2 times through the lineup. So if you did that, you'd have to use maybe 3 or 4 pitchers a game. But if with a bullpen of 13, every so often you might have that one ace who you could say, okay, the bullpen gets a day off basically, or at least the first 6-7 innings off. And that would make it a lot more difficult for hitters to adjust.
Yep, it's early in the season, so we're not seeing many of them, but we will see a ton of them as the season goes along. But yes, Schmidt and the Yankees swept the Royals. I thought that was big news this week for the early portion of games, just because the Yankees were floundering there, losing a couple series in a row, and they were able to win 4-3. Cody Bellinger saved the game with a nice catch. Looks like Devin Williams is settling into the closer role.
Bellinger's been a nice addition for the Yankees.
Very much so, and so Goldschmidt. So they've hit the ground running. I'm sure soon will come at some point, and they'll get booed like every Yankee does. But so far, not
it's part of the initiation to the Bronx.
Absolutely, it has to be.
Aaron Judge is having a pretty good year, batting over 400, which is amazing for a slugger.
Yeah.
Wow.
Who's that, Judge?
Yeah.
Yeah, hit his 7th home run yesterday, and people are saying, "Oh, he hadn't hit a home run in 10 games," as if that's revolutionary. But I mean, given how he has hit the ball, it is for him.
Over 400 is amazing. I mean, that's incredible for a slugger.
You know what's great about it is his plate discipline has really improved because he used to strike out so much, and he did pick up a lot.
On the same pitch too. He'd always that little low outside pitch. He'd always swing and miss it.
Yeah, he picked a lot from Juan Soto. So even though Soto's stay in the Bronx was brief, he did have a strong effect on Judge and some other Yankee hitters. And within that division, the Red Sox took 2 out of 3 from the Rays, so they're 10-10 now, and the Blue Jays are still hanging around.
Yeah, but that one game they lost to the Rays was ugly. What was that, 16-1?
Yeah, but I mean,
the series,
they bounced back nicely, and the Blue Jays beat the Braves, beat the Spencers, Schwellenbach, and Strider. So Braves still floundering. Giants. Jim, you want to opine on the Giants-Phillies series? Did you see a bunch of it? Tons of walks in yesterday's game. Andy and I mentioned that Aaron Nola hadn't been good. He continued that. And so the Giants, they play to close out the series on Thursday afternoon, but Giants have reached at least a split, and so they are having a tremendous East Coast swing.
Yeah, it's tough to be on the road and keep city to city like that and play good teams one after another and keep winning it. They're obviously came into the season way underrated.
They seem to have a very odd scheduling dynamic as well, because after Philadelphia, they return to the West Coast, but they don't return home. They go to the Angels. It's rather odd scheduling. You'd think that you go home first, and then maybe you do a road trip down south to the two LA and San Diego teams. But they start off at because I'd like at this point, this would be a perfect spot from a situational handicapping standpoint to go against the Giants, coming off of series wins in New York and at least a split, possibly a series win in Philadelphia. Then you're going across and you're playing the Angels, who are off to a nice start, but still not considered to be a contender in the West with some questionable pitching, and it's the questionable pitching for the Angels that would keep me from pretty much going on them while the Giants are playing as well as they are. So it's a good spot that, unfortunately, for me at least right now, won't be taken advantage of.
Yeah, that'll be they'll open up with Tyler Anderson, the Angels will, and he looked great against Houston. But Yusei Kikuchi was one of their big offseason additions. He has struggled after a strong season last year, I think, in Toronto. NL West-wise, 4 of the 8 teams in the National League with with winning records reside in that division. So that's one big deal there, and that's obviously led by the San Diego Padres, who finally hit the road after a 12-1 start. So we'll see how they fare there. One of the better series that we have going on this weekend.
By the way, excuse me, Tony. We just a plug for our Wednesday show. We talked about complete games. Michael King of the Padres, I think, was one of the latest ones to have a complete game for the Padres, who I've always liked.
That's true. That's right. That's who it was.
Stays with the Yankees.
Yeah, make sure you check out our Wednesday show. We go all around the sports world, joined by Mark Lawrence and Greg DePalma, in addition to the people here for football season. We have Victor King, and we have sliding guests in terms of people with specialties in golf and auto racing and whatnot. So definitely check out the Wednesday flagship show on Proline TV. The Padres dominant so far. You mentioned Michael King. They've had a great start.
Vasquez, who was a surprise.
Well, yeah, but no, I mean, I was going to go to the other addition who has been lights out at home, pitched yesterday.
That's Vasquez, right?
No, what's his name? I don't know why I can't place it. He won yesterday. That was my pick of the week. Sometimes names escape me, but it was definitely not Vasquez.
Oh, Pivetta, yeah.
Nick Pivetta, correct. There you go. So, yeah, Nick Pivetta pitched well and has been tremendous at Petco. They won't get Joe Musgrove back this year, but Yu Darvish will be coming back. So the Padres will hang around.
The guy who's been struggling is the guy who was considered the ace, and Dylan Cease.
Right. And, we'll see about how.
He'll straighten out.
Yeah. So definitely a strong contender if you don't want to back the Dodgers. Dodgers swept the Rockies, as we said, and the Diamondbacks swept the Marlins. So everybody in the NL West, with the exception of the Rockies, are humming. Rockies are 3-15 and headed for a 100-loss season. They did get good news in that Brenton Doyle, their best player, will not have to be on the injured list, and he should come back at some point.
Is it possible, with the strength so far we've seen in the National League West? Now, we expected the Dodgers to be outstanding. They haven't quite lived up to that yet, but it's early. Long season will prove them they're probably the best team. The start by the Padres, everyone expected them to be a challenger, certainly for the playoffs. Arizona had some expectations. They've been sort of in and out. And then, of course, the really surprise team, the Giants. Is it possible that we could see for the second season in a row a major league team, i.e. the Colorado Rockies, lose 120 games as the White Sox did last year?
I've been saying that, right, Jim, since the first one of these.
I mean, they are hard to watch. I mean, they're very hard to watch. Yeah.
Since the first baseball betting bash, way back in the days when it was the baseball betting jam, if anybody remembers that, I said the Rockies are going to give the White Sox a run, and they, I mean, to their credit, they're at least somewhat trying. They brought up Dolander, their top pitching prospect. He goes this weekend, but so they'll go down swinging, but they'll go down an awful lot. One last thing,
the White Sox are even challenging their own record, 4-13. I think they are right now.
Yes, the White Sox are thanking that the Rockies are in baseball at this point. But yes, 4-13, bring up the rear in the American League. Made a note in our pre-show stuff that basically the National League is completely tight, with the exception of the Rockies. The 4 of the NL Central teams are 9-9 or better. Cubs lead that. And the top 4 in the division are separated by a game and a half. So through 20 games, or roughly, they'll be through 22, I think, most teams at the end of this weekend.
And even the Marlins,
not a lot of separation.
Even the Marlins and the Nationals are not terrible. Marlins are a 500 team. Nationals are a few games below.
The Marlins enter.
You can pick up some nice dog money with those 2 teams occasionally.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the Marlins being 8-9 is surprising, considering few people could name who's going to make their big league roster outside of a few guys.
And that's with Alcantara getting returning from injury, getting off to just a rather mediocre start.
Yeah, he's working his way back in. I don't think it'll continue. I think they'll be a 90-loss team, but certainly a strong start from there. And they got a new manager too, so he's at least getting an effort out of them early. So yeah, let's look forward. We've looked back. Let's look forward to the series this week, and I'll open it up to a simple question, I guess. I picked the Cubs and Diamondbacks as the best series, but Padres, Astros, Dodgers, Rangers, Giants, Angels, any of those do you think is a little better than Arizona and Chicago?
Well, and that Arizona, Chicago coming back off the tough games in LA, and Arizona, of course, is But I mean, what do you think? I mean, the first game on Friday, Corbin Burns against Ray. What do you think of this Ray and that matchup?
Colin Ray looked great, and he was basically thrust into the rotation, due to an injury. So we'll see. I don't know how you guys feel about when teams are surprised by guys that they don't have tape on. I like to fade them the next time around because they'll get opposing hitters' attention, and there's fresh video on them. So I'm expecting Arizona to be prepared for Colin Ray, whereas I forget which team it was. I think it was the Dodgers, wasn't it? Was not prepared for him.
Yeah, it's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, that was, I think, right after Steele went down.
Yeah, that was. He's in the rotation.
Takes place rotation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why he's there. So, Friday's games they got some interesting ones. Miami looks to surprise Philadelphia, and Sandy Alcantara is going to be up on against Zach Wheeler. I think that's the top pitching matchup for Friday's slate. We'll talk about the series prices that we like and our games of the week. I'll recap how we did on games of the weekend. I'll recap how we did on games of the week here. But spoiler alert, we are all looking to do better. Look, that San Francisco Los Angeles series in Anaheim, I think, is an interesting one because you have two teams that are off to probably better starts than many anticipated.
Well, yeah, Webb against Anderson. I mean, San Francisco's been amazing, but like Andy said, I mean, this team has had to face some really good teams on the East Coast have done well, but I mean, now you got a cross-country trip going back out west, and now you got to go play Los Angeles. I mean, that's we're going to have a letdown somewhere in here.
I mean, it's 162 games, so they should. But will it come here because of a little jet lag? It's possible. And Anderson has looked great. The Giants do hit lefties pretty well. Elliot Ramos, I know his splits last year. Every time I had to put a DFS lineup and I saw a lefty in the rotation against him, I would make sure that he was in my lineup. That has not come to fruition early this season, but with him and Jung-Hoo Lee, back to back in that order, pretty much, they have certainly been formidable in the season's first few weeks.
Wow. I haven't seen any. I don't have any prices. I don't think you do either on this game. But
No.
Los Angeles at a cheap price, or even a dog, I would love to take them.
I would say that, I mean, because you project what these are. I would say that the Angels are going to be a slight dog, and at most this is a pick'em series, just because the Giants have been so impressive,
Right.
and they do have Logan Webb to start the series. So, but yeah, because of the travel.
And then you look at the game right above it. Can anybody bet on the Colorado Rockies? I mean, my God, I mean,
No.
Not even against Washington. You're absolutely right.
No, Washington's been pretty decent, and their pitching has been pretty good. Mitchell Parker finally lost.
I'll tell you the series that I'm Astros.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Andy?
Yeah, you broke up a little
I'm
bit.
looking at the Padres at the Astros, and in fact, I've already sort of set out my pattern for what I'm going to do in this series. The first game, a couple of young pitchers, Hart for the Padres, and I guess it's Gusto for the Astros. I might look for that to be a higher scoring game because I think that's the weakest pitching matchup of the series. And then the next two games, Saturday and Sunday, are attractive because on Saturday I'll be looking to play Michael King against Wisniewski of the Astros. That'll be my spot for the Padres. And then on Sunday I'll probably go the reverse, and you've got Dylan Cease, who's still struggling, and even though a lot of those starts have been at home, going against Valdez of the Astros, who I think is starting to work himself back into form. So I'm probably looking at a sequence of over the total, Padres with King, Astros with Valdez for that 3-game series. I think that's going to be one of the more interesting matchups.
Let me interject something here. We are talking about the starting pitchers, and,
Right.
and this is something we've talked a little bit about this through all of our shows. These starting pitchers only go 5 innings. So what? I mean,
well, see, I would make Valdez and King would be the exceptions in the two matchups. Those I think are both capable and have shown it so far this year, especially King, of going 6 or 7 innings. And that's kind of like why I like the over in the first game, because I'm not so sure how Hart and Gusto will be going as basically rookie starters making, Hart's made a few starts. I think Gusto just made his first start. That's going to be the high scoring game. And that might be actually an over in the first 5 innings.
But Jim, what you're getting at is basically you want to bet first 5?
That's when I'm dealing with the starting pitchers as my primary reason to make a play, I do go first 5s. I mean, whether it's on or against, because I'm gonna bang this guy around for 5 innings. I'm gonna definitely look first 5 over, first 5 under. Like yesterday with Atlanta, first 5 under was my play.
Yeah.
Now they lost the game, but they stayed under in the first 5. And they stayed under for the game too. But is there any place where you look to see the availability of pitchers, the bullpen, the middle relievers, the closers, that's easy to find information?
Yes.
Because it's not like 1960 or 70 when the starting pitcher stayed, they might pitch 14 innings. Now there are 100 pitches and they're out. So is there anywhere you look at? I mean, it's a whole different handicap method now.
I will send it to you offline. Yeah, but yes, there absolutely is.
We talked about that yesterday, I think, on the Wednesday show, the importance of knowing who's pitched the night before and how the bullpen shapes up. Because, bullpens now are factors if you're looking to play full games, not so much the first 5 as for the full games. Whereas years ago, starting pitchers were basically you're looking at to complete 7, 8 innings, and the closers. I think they started keeping saves as a stat back in like 1969, which means that was like baseball was 100 years old already at that point. Then you started getting middle relief, and then they started putting even more specialists with the setup guy for the setup guy for the setup guy for the closer as starters started to go less and less. In fact, I did a study. I don't remember the exact numbers, but if you take a look at the number of starts of pitchers going more than 5 innings, it has decreased dramatically just over the last 4 or 5 years. I think it was down to under 50% last year, or close to 50%.
Wow. Now there's great. Look at this: Los Angeles against Texas, Yamamoto against DeGrom. Now you got 2 quality pitchers, and the price is going to be based on those two guys. But how long are they going to go?
Well,
and especially DeGrom.
But
He's
and
coming
that's
back
where
from the
your
injury.
thinking comes into play because the Dodgers have a significantly better bullpen than the Rangers. So,
Yes.
you would factor that in. My game of the week for the Monday show was the Padres over the Cubs, and it was a Matthew Boyd against Nick Pivetta. Padres ended up squeaking out a 4-3 win, but I had first five, which they squeaked out a 2-1 lead. So it worked out either way, but
Right.
my preference was to ride Pivetta, and he was tremendous at Petco, and I think he's going to be because he's going to be able to keep the ball in the yard a little better. But yeah, the bottom line is, my preference, like we mentioned very early on in these shows, first five if I really like the starter, first five if I really like the under.
Well, I would also do first five if I don't like either starter, play the over on that one.
That's true.
I don't trust bullpens at all, so to me, I want more shots at the over.
Yeah, but I prefer with a couple of pitchers who might be pulled after the third or during the third or fourth inning. You're going over a 3.5 very often in those kind of matchups.
No question. I think that's
it's almost like you're handicapping 3 games in one.
Yeah.
You got the first 5, and then you got 6, 7, and 8, and then you got the closer. So you got 3 different segments of the game to look at. It's much more difficult than it used to be.
I'm not looking to be greedy. I'm looking to get one bet out of a game and just decide what it's going to be. Is it going to be a first five? Is it going to be a side or a total? I'm not going to try and outguess myself and say, well, the first part of the game is going to be like this. The second part of the game is going to be like this. I'm going to look for what I think is the strongest part of the game. Will it be a side? Will it be a total? Will it be a full game? Will it be a first 5 innings? And now, of course, as I noticed the other day, you've now got 3.5 inning lines in a lot of places.
And I'll plug a series that's coming on Proline TV where we share our handicapping tips in 1-minute segments. One of mine will end up being waiting for lineups because you want to make these determinations based on batter versus pitcher history.
And those usually come out about 90. They usually come out about 90 minutes before game time.
Well, no. If you're not Ron Washington, the lineups will be out 3 hours ahead of time. If you are Ron Washington, maybe 60 minutes if you're lucky. But for the most part, a 7 p.m. Eastern time start, you can expect to see lineups around 4. They'll post them in the clubhouse, and then reporters will have them. Even the team social media accounts will put them on various sites. But the bottom line is if you're banking on the Mets to get you help on the over because Juan Soto owns a certain pitcher and Soto somehow out of the lineup, there goes your bet. So we will talk about that on Proline TV and videos that you will see going forward. We're into the last 10 minutes of the show, so we're going to get to series prices and games to watch. Give a little bit of a recap. Andy and Jim were on opposite sides of the Mets-Twins series that just came to fruition, and the Mets ended up losing that series to the Twins. So Andy won and Jim lost.
Andy took me down.
No, by the way, that all came down to the final game of the series.
Yes,
and went extra innings, and the Mets couldn't score in the top of the 10th with the runner on second. That's that stupid rule that I still dislike.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see when that finally ends. It came about, I think, because of the pandemic, because they wanted to shorten games.
Yeah.
And then it's still hanging around.
That's still not
it does say bullpens. It does say bullpens, but that's another reason, Andy, why I like the over to go full game, because if you get extras, you get extra cracks at it with runners in scoring position.
But those are now. I think there's a very slight built-in for certain games, maybe a half a run on a total because of the ghost runner.
I was a loser on the Tigers and Brewers, which I felt really confident in, and again that came down to the rubber game of that series, and the Brewers held serve. Jose Quintana looked good again. We had in individual games, Jim almost a clean sweep with his Dodgers -1.5 over the Rockies. He's right to smart about that. I mean, it's tough. That's a tough beat. Jim
still made money on the series, laying the run and a half though.
He lost his game of the week with McGill over Ober. That was one of the keys to that Twins Mets series that swung that. Andy, you lost Schwellenbach over Gaussman with the Jays and Braves. And I know I mentioned on the Wednesday show that I was on the under first 5 in that, and it looked great 1-1 going into the bottom of the fifth, and that's when Schellenbach unwrapped.
Schwellenbach got swelled.
Yeah, he got swelled. Yeah. He's really good though. So we'll look to do better. We'll look for clean sweeps. That's obviously always the goal. So Andy, let's start with you. I know you mentioned already that you've got a couple of series even mapped out. Anything that you like?
Well, so in that series, and that is, I do like in that middle. And again, these are all predicated upon the starting pitching matchups that we have right now, and barring an injury or a rain out, which could occur and switch rotations. I'm going to go with the King over Wisniewski in the projected Saturday matchup of the Padres at Houston. I don't want to pick a winner in that one because I do think that the Padres have I could almost say, but you can't do it without knowing it, that whoever wins that Friday game is going to win the series, because I would expect the Padres to win Saturday and the Astros to win Sundays. But I think I just like King, even though he's coming off that complete game. I do like the way he's playing, and I'm gonna go for a series, and I don't know what the price will be. These are two struggling teams, but I'm gonna go with the Braves over the Minnesota Twins. I just can't believe that the Braves are going to continue to struggle as poorly they did offensively, and Minnesota. Both of these teams are struggling offensively. Might be a good series to look under the total the way both of these teams are struggling, but I think Atlanta's going to come through and take 2 out of the 3.
Yeah, Atlanta, despite their struggles, probably going to be a series favorite in that. Again, those numbers will be released probably.
But I think it'll be a reasonable price.
All right, and then the other thing for our maintenance purposes, so we know which way we're going. We're going full game with the Padres over the Astros, or we're going first 5.
I'm going to go. That's a good point. I'll make it first 5.
Very good. Expect to see the Padres a road favorite in the 140 range, 135, 140.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe a little bit shorter than that, but I was going to say at least 125.
All right. So that's where we're at with Andy. Jim, what you got?
Well, I'm gonna go with a couple things here. First of all, I'm gonna take the Angels over San Francisco to win the series. So
Angels in the surprise.
Yep. I mean, well, it's not that big a surprise. I mean,
not that big a surprise, but
San Francisco's been on the road. This is living in hotels and on airplanes is tough, and cross country trip is tough. And I mean, eventually these people wear out. And Anderson has pitched well. That's the first game, but I'm looking for them to win the series. I'm going to go Washington every game. I'm going to win that series.
By the way, Jim, just to mention that you're also getting the Angels facing a San Francisco team that is playing in Philadelphia today to wrap up that series, going across country and playing that game tomorrow night. So San Francisco will have played a whole bunch of games in a row in New York, going back to last weekend's series, and then
with no break at all.
Yeah,
exactly. With no break. That's tough schedule.
That's basically 4 different cities: New York, Philadelphia. Well, 3 different cities: New York, Philadelphia, LA, without any rest.
That's tough.
2 of the Angels starting.
And the Angels are playing well.
Yes,
I mean, they are playing well. They're hitting the ball well. 2 of the Angels starting pitchers in that series too that might benefit you are new to Anaheim. So it's Yusei Kikuchi on Sunday and Kyle Hendricks on Saturday. So maybe they'll have some struggles, getting used to the mound there and whatnot. So I like that play. I'm
going to take the Los Angeles, Texas first 5 game, DeGrom, Yamamoto under first 5.
All right, so that's Friday under the Yamamoto DeGrom projected pitching.
So that's 3 basic plays: Washington the series, Angels the series, and that game first 5 under.
Yeah, and again, the numbers will come back out on Thursday. Expect the Nationals to be a very rare series favorite, but it's in Colorado, and the price won't be too bad. So definitely, I co-sign on that. 3 4-game sets this weekend. So 7 games are wrapping up. 7 series are wrapping up on Thursday. 3 will begin. That'll be the Mets hosting the Cardinals, the Yankees at the Rays, and the Tigers and Royals duel in Detroit. And I won't touch those. I just wanted to mention.
By the way, excuse me, Tony, with that Rays series, the Yankees will be playing at their spring training.
That's right. That is very true.
Tampa Bay's playing.
And look, I mean, I'm an hour and a half north of that. The Yankees always that's a home game for the Yankees always.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's even more of a Yankee home game now. But it will add to the dynamic there.
I just wonder what the Yankees, how uncomfortable they may feel having to address in the visitors' locker room.
I mean, it'll be a new experience.
Where's my deodorant spray? I left it here. Oh, wait a minute, it's in the other locker room.
My game of the weekend will
Was
be
it a tennis player told another tennis player they should put deodorant on the other day? I thought that was interesting.
Really? No, I missed that one.
Yes, it really happened.
My game of the weekend will be in that series. I'll take Max Fried over Ryan Pepio with the Yankees on Sunday, and again, fully expect them to be favored in the 130 to 145 range. I'll lay it first five. Yankee bullpen has been better of late, but I am not going to trust them. And as far as series are concerned, I'm going to officially come on board with Jim on the Nationals over the Rockies, but I'll give you another one. We're going to go with the Reds over the Orioles. Baltimore has really struggled to start the season. They are undecided as to who will pitch on Friday. Andrew Abbott just debuted over the weekend for Cincinnati. He's coming back off of an injury, so might want to look to the over in that game, depending on who Baltimore ends up starting. But on Saturday, definitely like the Hunter Green, Cade Povich matchup in Cincinnati's favor. And on Sunday, Nick Lodolo against Charlie Morton, who has looked his age to start 2025. So give me Cincinnati.
What do you think the price will be with Green starting? I mean, he's been unbelievable.
For that individual game?
Yeah.
Cincinnati minus 115, 120.
Sounds about right. It is on the road.
Yeah,
on the road.
This kid he's been awesome.
Lights out.
Yeah.
So
he's been swelling back before swelling back the other night. That's how
true. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and Green I saw is leading all of Major League Baseball starters in average fastball, and it's over 99. So he is bringing it. His ERA, like I mentioned on Monday, 1.00 since last July. So
and you wonder with that stat about the average speed of the fastball, if he might not be an injury risk come midseason.
They all are. I mean, look what happened to Strider last year. So yeah. I think it's every pitcher that gets up that much.
That's one of the reasons they hold these guys down to 100 pitches. I mean,
absolutely
that is something they do, and for physicality, for health, it's probably the right thing. It screws up the game a lot, but you're trying to keep them healthy.
We're going to close out on this. FanDuel on their social media accounts put up a question that got a ton of replies and a lot of engagement, millions. Would Babe Ruth be able to touch Paul Skenes? And I know both of you guys were watching Babe Ruth back in your childhood at the old Yankee Stadium. So what is your opinion on that, Jim? We'll start with you.
Well, I don't think that Babe Ruth had such a batting eye, and Ted Williams had such a batting eye, and these guys, they were more than normal humans, and yes, they could hit any pitcher. Now, right. if I mean, I grew up watching. I mean, Sandy Koufax threw that crazy ball from over the head that dropped like crazy. Nobody could hit him when he was really on. I mean, he only had a short career because of the elbow. And then Nolan Ryan threw the ball so damn hard, it moves so much. And now there's new pitches. It's harder now because there's more science in it. But these guys had batting eyes that were, if anybody could hit those guys, it would be a Babe Ruth or a Ted Williams.
The only thing that we have to keep in mind, and again, it's I won't say it's a silly question, but it's obviously an unanswerable question, is that those great batting eyes came against guys who were throwing, 85, 90 miles per hour with their fastballs back then, because the technology and the weight training and all that was not as sophisticated as today. But given the way they were in their primes against the competition they faced, it'd be hard to see Babe Ruth not being able, or Ted Williams, or even a Tony Gwynn, for example, who had great eyes, not being able to hit, or Joe DiMaggio, who I think had more. I think he had more more home runs than he had strikeouts or something in his career, or something like that.
I mean, nobody ever gave the guy credit, but it was hard to get Pete Rose out. I mean, you couldn't get the ball by him. He knew how to hit the ball to every field, and Charlie Hustle. I mean, so there were great players back in the day. But your point is well taken, Andy, because they were not throwing as hard as some of these guys are now.
And I think Williams, DiMaggio, Gwynn, Rose. I don't think that would be the debate. I think Babe Ruth is an interesting question. And again, this is not would he get a hit off him. Would he touch? Would he be able to catch up to a pitch?
Yeah.
Because it's
well,
like
the
dropping
thing
an
is,
alien.
here's the only question I would ask here on this: if the guys today can hit them, why couldn't they?
Because they didn't see it back then.
Well, eventually they would see enough of it to learn how to deal with it. I
But
mean,
if Babe Ruth were playing today and had the benefit of all the weight training and everything, his natural ability, I think, would be far enhanced from what it was back then.
There's no question about it.
Biggest problem is he'd have to use the weights in one hand because he had the beer in the other hand.
Or the hot dog, yeah.
He'd have the MLB equivalent of Pat Riley whipping him into shape,
Yeah.
to get the most out of his potential. That's going to do it for the Baseball Betting Bash on Proline TV. Join us Monday for the next episode. We will have markers up so you can go directly to all of our plays for the weekend. And we, as always, will hope for a clean sweep. For Andy Iskoe and Jim Feist, I'm Tony Mejia. Thanks for watching. Tell a friend, like, and subscribe, and we'll catch you on Monday.